I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers, where we often focus on organizations serving our community, and that's what we're doing today by focusing on NAMI Joplin. And joining me is Rick Wiseman, a member of the board for NAMI, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Let's start off with, we use the term NAMI, N-A-M-I. People say, what does that mean?
It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It is the largest grassroots organization in America dealing with mental health. We have, I think, 11 chapters in Missouri and 1,800 nationwide. And we're here to help folks who are suffering mental illness and their families and caregivers.
So you basically support, as I saw in your words, support, education, and advocacy.
Yes,
Tying
very,
all that
very
together.
much.
Joplin is one of the many chapters in the state of Missouri. Let's talk about a little bit about the Joplin chapter, how long. You've been around for quite a while.
We have been around since 98, I think. We, for many years, were out on Davis Boulevard in a building that was donated to us by Joplin, Jasper Products. And we moved into town. We got to the point that we were making a little more money. We moved into town, and we're in the west half of the bus station building,
okay, so right
219 West 2nd Street, yeah. And we have grown tremendously there. The folks who are who need our services, a lot of them live in that area, and they just come in. And
good central location for people to find you and provide those services. So the chapters have been here for a number of years. You're providing these services, and we're here today, I guess, kind of playing the education role, letting people in the community know a little bit about the topic and what you have to do. Let's start off talking about mental illness. How do you define that for people? They say, well, you're National Association of Mental Illness. What's the definition of that?
Nobody wants mental illness. They don't get up, and nobody that has diabetes says one day, I want to be a diabetic, or a guy with a heart problem doesn't say, gee whiz, I think I'm going to have a heart problem. Mental illness is the same way. The people don't start out with it. There are some that start very young, but nobody chooses it. And so they have a situation and they're lost in it. Their family members don't know what to do. There is no help. The closest help is Ozark Center if you're set up to deal with them, but there are a lot of people who don't have the money to go to Ozark Center or the way to get there or anything. So they come to see us, and mental illness is probably the best way to put it is to say that if you have a condition that keeps you from working, playing, and relaxing, that causes problems with that, then you probably are suffering a mental illness. And
I know, looking at some of the information statistics, so it's 1 in 4 adults that say are
adults,
affected each year.
Yes,
so
yes.
It's very
in their
prevalent.
lifetime will have mental illness. And they're, interestingly, the most popular mental illness, the most well-known, seems to be schizophrenia.
That's the one everybody hears about.
Yeah, it's less than 1% of the mental illness problem. But it's the leader, and the movies have really done mental illness a very, very difficult,
kind of a disservice the way they portray mental illness.
And so that's all I got to say.
So there's a lot of different types of mental illnesses for people that they encounter, and I guess one of the biggest challenges is seeking services, but perhaps even the diagnosis in many situations.
Yeah. People will go through several diagnoses before they find the right one. They have to shop, and there aren't a lot of psychiatrists or counselors in the area. So, well, a lot of counselors, but there are not a lot of
the medical side of
the
treatment.
And thank you for helping, because my brain isn't functioning well today. But it will take several things to find out if you really are behaviorally challenged, if you have, or you're bipolar, or if you're ADD or ADHD, and So it takes time to find that out.
And this affects people of all ages, then?
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. From infancy, in the case of one child, to adulthood, 70.
So even the elderly are
people,
getting the diagnosis throughout the ages. So not only diagnosis, but then the treatment, I'm sure, is specific for each age as you go along too. The children are developing and the family tying that together. So really a lot of this education, you're working with the support that they face with families, people who are working with these patients who have been diagnosed.
We have a family support program called Family to Family, and it meets one night a week for 12 weeks. It's a very long program, but when the person has gone through that, they actually know more than a lot of doctors who have gone through, and they'll probably hate me for this, who have gone through their psych practicum, you know, and a lot of them haven't even had that. And we tell you in this program how people act because of the illnesses they have, how we deal with them, how we have to set parameters for them. We have to make rules that they can follow and help them toward recovery. And recovery is an interesting thing, and it simply is the fact that you might have been a professor at the university and you had a mental break of some kind, severely, and as you recover, you might be able to go out and get in your car and drive to the post office and get the mail and drive back home, and that might be it for the day, you know. So the recovery is you're not going back to the person you were.
So it's a step-by-step process, and you still have those many steps to take.
Yes. And you'll never have them back. You know, just like Joplin and the tornado. Hate to play the tornado card, but it's a new normal because things aren't the way they were. That corner will never be the way that it was before. So it's new, and it slowly becomes normal.
So for those people, their lives, then the family members, their lives have changed as a result as well, and tying this together. Well, the local organization is involved in a lot of activities. In front of me, we have some T-shirts that tied into, let's talk a little bit about your walk that you had, walk-run that you had back in April, right? In
April, We have this event every April. This is the 9th year that we've done it, but it's the first year that we've added a 5K run to it. So we were pretty excited about the event. We had not a whole lot of runners, but we had our usual amount of walkers, and they did a great job. Boy, the 5K runners did well running around the track. We had it at Landreth, on the track there at Landreth, and it was one of the 2 fundraisers we do, and it was a good fundraiser for us. We brought in some money on it. We had a great time. We fed them all biscuits and gravy after the run and the walk, and a lot of people came up and told us they were really pleased with having the run. So next year we hope to have a lot more people.
To get more runners out, word of mouth spreads. You raise funds. How do you then utilize those funds for the program?
Our main focus is education. Educating the person who has an illness so they don't feel like they're all alone. Educating their families so that they feel like they're not alone. And then advocating for them when they need some help. And that would be like the Medicaid expansion program that's going on now.
Right, we hear about medical changes in the laws and so forth.
We advocate there. We advocate with the state if they need help with the state. And there are several programs in the state. If they know where to go, they can go in and get services and help. Many times they don't know.
So a lot of times people just don't know, where do I go for services?
Absolutely not.
I've got this new situation. What are the services? What are the resources that we can call upon?
Yeah, and we also have a program for we call them consumers, for the consumer themselves. Every Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock we have a support group. It will range from 12 to 20 people, whoever's in town and around. Again, we're talking about not being alone, and they can go in to the support group and sit down. Everything is confidential. They can say what's on their mind, and somebody else is going to say, oh yeah, I had that too, and they're going to solve problems in that unit. And they're very, very cohesive, and they want to stick together, and if we have to cancel a meeting, they really get upset.
It's part of their routine. They want to be there.
It's their life.
So do your staff members, people help facilitate these programs?
Yes, we have people trained to do that. All of our volunteers are trained to handle each program. The family-to-family program, the family support. We have a program called Basics for the parents of children with mental illness, and other programs that I'll talk about in a minute. But we certify them. They are evidence-based training. So when we turn the volunteers loose with the class, they know what they're talking about, and the manual is designed so that they can present it easily. The person has copies of it, and you can watch them being empowered.
So are you also looking for volunteers, maybe people from the community who could help lead those programs?
You bet. We need volunteers. We need volunteers for the office, 1 to 4 on Monday through Thursday, to just answer the phone, do filing and things like that, and we need volunteers to train to take over and run these groups also.
To help coordinate what you're doing. Well, let's talk about some of the programs that you have. I know that you have some materials with you, and one of these is a mental health first aid. Let's
mental health first aid came to America from Australia, and the state of Maryland and the state of Missouri embraced the program. They have put together an 8-hour program dealing with what to do as a layperson, what to do with someone who's suffering an episode of mental illness. And I first heard of the program, I was on my way to the barber shop, and I missed my appointment because I sat in the car and listened to the program. But it was about a secretary who was alone in her office, and a fellow having an episode came in and how to handle it.
So she didn't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. So when I heard that, I wanted to get it. And it was several years. I wasn't even involved with NAMI then. But we got it in. It's great. We run it 3 or 4 times a year. We have some people who come in to lead the class as a special training. It takes about a week of training. And it's a pretty costly program, and we have some great trainers in it.
To help train. So this is open to community professionals, people who might be interacting with the public, or like you said, in businesses.
Everybody needs it. You need it here at the university. The guy that runs the maintenance crew out there needs it. Dr. Marble needs it. Everybody needs it. And because you have to settle a person down, you have to make sure they're safe, and you always have to have an avenue of safety for yourself.
So it's teaching these steps of what you need to do.
Yes, and you listen to them, you try to be non-judgmental, you ask them for information, and you give them information. And the very first question you ask is, Judy, are you thinking about hurting yourself or someone else?
So you check on that.
Are you considering suicide? Tough question to ask.
Right.
It's really hard to ask, but it's key, because if they are, what are you going to do? Right. You have a plan? Yeah. Well, what are you going to?
How do you react to the
answer?
How are you
going to do that?
Yeah,
well,
I've had enough. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm going to go drive my car off the low water bridge. You know? So, and you decide if they have a plan and a means to carry it out, and then there is other action you take in that case.
Right.
Most situations, it's just talking to them, settling down until help arrives.
And that's an important step, is that you have to know how to get that help there to assist them, so they're able to follow up with that treatment and follow-up care. And following that through. Well, we hear a lot about today in the news also about military personnel coming back to the United States, and there are stories, there are commercials, there are spots about veterans coming back with post-traumatic stress disorder. This is another aspect of care that's needed.
It's very critical. They come back. The Wounded Warrior Project is one of the things that really helps them. They come back. They don't understand why they feel like they do. Why they rage and carry on. And the first time I ever saw it was a friend when we were camping many years ago. He was a Vietnam vet, and he would tell us at night, if I run off into the woods screaming, don't try to follow me, because I don't know what I would do. We didn't have a name for it then.
Right.
Our program is called Homefront, and again, it's a 6-week session for the families, wife, kids, adult kids of a vet who's come home and who's having some problems. And again, this is such a trite phrase, and I use it a lot, but they learn why they do what they're doing and how to calm them down from that.
So it's an understanding of what they're facing.
It's exactly like somebody who's had any other kind of a mental break, in the fact that they're off center. They can't do anything. The only thing they can do is just scream and yell and rage, and then feel bad about that. And I encourage anyone with a veteran who is interested in knowing more to call our NAMI office, which is, what is that number? 781-6264 in Joplin, and we can tell you when the class is going to be. Plus, we are working on a new veterans program, a support group for the vets to come in and sit down with their peers and talk. Everything's confidential, just like in all of our groups. They talk, they hash out what's going on with them, and it gives them a lot of good positive feelings.
And this really ties into, as I noticed on your website, your written information, the quote, "You are not alone."
That's right.
You know, whether you are someone needing care or you're a family dealing with someone, you are not alone. You're trying to let people know that there are others out there.
That's the first thing people feel. Why, why me? Why has this happened to my son? What am I going to do? Where am I going to get help? So we have it there for them.
Right, to help those people out. Now, is there you mentioned your phone number in your office. Is there such a thing as a hotline or a phone number people can call if they're facing situations?
In this beautifully illustrated sheet, these are tear-off tabs that we hang them like in the school or wherever, and people can just tear them off. The warm line is 800-374-2138. Now, this is NAMI Missouri's warm line. It's free. Everything we do is free. We don't charge anything for the services that we give. Most people can't afford it anyway, so we don't charge them. But this is a very important thing. If you're out there and you're feeling bad and you don't know what's wrong with you, and you maybe saw a movie on TV where the guy was acting kind of like you're acting, call the warm line, visit with them. They'll tell you what you need to do next.
Refer you to some people who can help. Family members as well, though, if they feel they're struggling with someone and they don't understand what they're going through, they could call this number and find out.
That's right. 9 to 5 weekdays, 3 to 9 weekends, and holidays, and it's open 7 days a week.
Right, and that's a statewide service for the state of Missouri.
It is.
And since our viewership also crosses over into Kansas and part of Oklahoma, those states probably have similar services.
I think so, but they can call this number. You know, if you're in our trade area and see this, then very definitely call.
And they can refer you to the other areas for your support and so forth. So a lot of service, if you're mentioning, is provided free. Do you have a membership basis for people to support you? I mean, how can people help?
We do have a membership. We have our membership for our consumers, and they pay an annual fee of $3. Pardon me. And if someone who is not a member but wants to join NAMI and they have limited means, then we can put them in at that same thing. Otherwise, if you join, it's $35 a year. You get 3 magazines a year, newsletters from several different NAMI organizations, a lot of information, a lot of very good information.
But I imagine the first step is just somebody making that phone call and asking for help. You still find in today's society people are afraid to speak about it or call and say, I need help?
There's a word out there called stigma, and that halts more people from doing anything. They don't want their neighbors to know. I read an interesting article. I read a lot. They don't bring you pie when you're family member has a mental illness. And the article talked about the folks, and they had a daughter who broke her leg and was hurt pretty badly, and they just came out of the woodwork and brought them pies and cakes and food. The same daughter years later had a mental break, and nobody brought them anything. It's kind of like the old stigma about cancer, you know, don't talk about it. If you talk about it, you might catch it. So, and we have to allay that. I don't know, we work constantly on that, and we make breakthroughs little at a time. Do
you find that more media awareness, public awareness is helping, and we hear stories in the national news and people are talking about it more?
The more that we can put it out. The only bad thing about the stories in the national news is the fact that they're usually hinged on murders,
the sensational stories,
high sensational stories, and the picture they post of the person is usually the most derogatory picture they can find. And that's the reason they just jump right on it. You know, this guy's schizophrenic, this guy's got behavioral disorders, he's bipolar, and that's the reason he did this.
So they label them right away.
And that's not true. That's not true. Most of the people, back to schizophrenia, most of the people with schizophrenia are not violent. They don't hallucinate and hear voices. And with schizophrenia, many times only one episode. They'll only have one episode in their life. And unfortunately, there are those who fall out of that category and have lifetimes symptoms.
Now, for people who have mental illness and are taking medications, and that's perhaps a challenge for families as well to understand those medications, and do you have educational programs for the families to understand, you know, I've suddenly been giving all these medications I have to give to my child or my family member?
We have a section in our family-to-family program that deals strictly with medications. It talks about all of the different types of medications. It names some of them by name. It tells you whether they're a health risk or not. It's pretty comprehensive, and the great thing about this program is the fact that a family will come in, and it's usually mom that's for it, and dad's kind of, you know, dads are fix-it guys, and so we don't
They're
need
not
all
ask
that
for outside
stuff.
help.
Yeah. But as the program goes, week 2 or 3, the light comes on. You can see the light in their eyes. Aha, this is what's going on.
So they start understanding the
situation. And it makes it very, very, very satisfying.
Well, I know you have resources at your facilities. You also have a website, and we could pop that up for the viewers to see. It's NAMIjoplin.org. So from here you can find out a lot about your programs, contact information, then, you know, basically a lot of what we've been talking about, but more detail to provide that. So people can contact you through the website.
Yes, they can. They can email us at, it's actually, that's the wrong email address on there. It's the email is NAMI Joplin at cable1.net.
Right, changed that since then.
And we had AT&T, and then we changed that over when we moved into town. You can reach us by phone. We have an answering service you can leave a message on. And we do call back. So there's, and you can walk in. You know, you're always welcome to come in.
When your offices are open, come in and visit during the daytime.
Look around, sure.
Right. And are you looking for volunteers then just even man the office, be there for the phones?
Sure.
You don't have to be a trained psychiatrist or medical professional to help out with the organization.
No, and you'll find out if you come in and do that, you're going to get some phone calls wanting your advice and help, and simply, if you don't know, refer them to the hospital, refer them to Ozark Center, refer them to the psych units, and they will help.
They'll help you out. Yeah. Now, I know the Joplin Police Department recently is starting a program, mental health court, that's dealing with people as well, and that sounds like another aspect of community awareness, trying to reach out and help others.
Sadly, the people who are suffering mental illness get involved in a crime, and a lot of time that crime is driving over the white line because they're not high on their medicine, but they might not have had their medicine, and they're suffering some things, and they're weaving all over the road. They get stopped, the cops come up and visit with them, and the person is belligerent, so they end up going to jail. And they're not bad people.
Right.
There are a lot of people who commit crimes who have mental illness that just need to be handled properly.
So working with law enforcement, helping them understand, and then also the court system having a system to help the people get the services they provide.
The crisis intervention training has been ongoing with the Joplin Police Department for several years. They have many trained officers. The difference is that when you always have to be aware of your own safety, but as a police officer, when you go to deal with these folks, you know how to assess the situation to see if you need to apply pressure or kindness. And it just becomes very self-evident. And I'd like to laud the Joplin Police because they've helped me with situations with my family member who is mentally ill, and with a lot of other people. And
so
you know, everybody gripes at them, but they deserve the kudos that go along also.
And you shared with me a card that I imagine you would have as a resource for people. It's just communicating with someone who has a psychiatric illness, kind of a step-by-step referral card. You know,
sure is. One of the most important things on there is when you talk to people and you give them instructions, one item at a time. Don't string out a whole lot of things. Just talk to them about, okay, sit down, not sit down, look over here, put your hand here, do this. It's just one thing at a time. That's calming for them, and they can understand that, because when they're in an episode, there are so many things going on in their minds that they can't relate to complex things. And so this helps them.
Helps them keep it simple, and then you can work with them and talk. So these are available through your office. If someone who's watching maybe would like to have those types of resources. Also have some other items that you brought out, brochures, and I know you try to get a lot of information basically out in the community where people are going to be working with others.
We'll, if anyone needs a speaker, we'll gladly come and visit about mental illness. Usually one of our programs, or, you know, just an overview so that you know what's going on. You're always welcome to come and see our support groups. One support group I didn't mention is the family support group. I don't think I mentioned that, and that's the one for the caregivers and family members of an adult with mental illness, and that meets only once a month on the second Tuesday at our building, and again, it's free of charge. So
these different programs that we've talked about, you can find out that through the website, or just give you a call, find out when was the time for that, and tie all that together.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for being on the program today, providing some information about the services you provide for the Joplin area.
Can I talk about the golf tournament?
Well, real briefly, the golf tournament coming up in the fall.
September 15th, Schifferdecker, our 15th annual golf tournament. It draws a lot of golfers, about 100 people. We have a lot of fun. There are prizes. Breakfast and lunch are served, and it's just great. We have a long driver who hits the ball a long way. That's why they call him a long driver. And we just have other events going on there too. So we'd love to see you come out to that. And if they'd like more information, just give you a call or check out your website. That's right. For more details. Okay. Well, once again, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're welcome. And I'd like to thank the viewers for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on the station. We'll see you.